All right, great day, third grade scholars. This is Mr. Allen here, and we are back for another math lesson today, and we're going to continue the work that we did on fractions in the prior lesson. Now, in the prior lesson, we worked on and discussed and analyzed the relationship between having fractions in unit form and in fraction form. So today we are going to talk about unit fractions and what a unit fraction is and how that relates to unit form as well as fraction form. So we will begin by going over the focus standard for this particular lesson, and I'll read it now. We are focusing on standard 3.NF.1. So by the end of this lesson, students will be able to understand a fraction as 1 over b, as you see that I have here, 1 over b as the quantity formed by one part when a whole is partitioned into b equal parts. So I'm going to talk about what the 1 or the numerator will represent, and also what b will represent in the total number of equal parts that construct or make a whole. So first, let's introduce this new term. So here, as you see here, we have the term unit fraction. Now, a unit fraction is a fraction that has 1 as the numerator. A unit fraction is a fraction that has 1 as the numerator. Now, when we talk about a unit is what we are using to describe a part or what the value of each part is. So that is a unit. So when we write a fraction in unit form, we will write out the words of whatever the particular unit is. We won't necessarily express that with in number forms using the fraction bar as we would do in fraction form. In fraction form, at the top we will have the numerator. Remember, the numerator shows us the total number of parts that we have identified or shaded, or trying to pay close attention to whatever the value of those parts are in the whole. And our denominator, which goes below the fraction bar, tells us the total number of equal parts that we use to make a whole. So you will see that I have two tape diagrams here. So for the first tape diagram, we're going to partition it 2 times into equal parts. So we're going to partition or divide this tape diagram into 3 parts. So I have one here and one here. Looking at my model, I can see that these 3 equal parts are about the same size. So first, let's identify what our denominator is going to be for this rectangle, for this tape diagram. The denominator represents the total number of equal parts that we have that construct a whole. So we're going to count how many equal parts we have here to determine what our denominator would be. I have 1, 2, and 3 equal parts. So we know that when we have 3 equal parts, the value of each part is 1/3. So since I have 3 equal parts, my denominator will be 3. Meaning that this tape diagram or this rectangle is broken into 3 parts or thirds. So when we talk about unit fractions, a unit fraction is a fraction that has 1 as the numerator. When we talk about units, we are only highlighting or analyzing one particular unit. It tells us what the value of one unit is. So if I'm going to shade in 1/3, so if I would write that in unit form, I would write 1/3. So if I'm going to write that in fraction form, my numerator shows us how many parts that I have that are shaded or that we're identifying in the fraction. So I have 1/3 shaded, so I would write 1/3 or 1/3. So 1/3 is my unit fraction. If I have more than one shaded, if I have 2/3, that's not a unit fraction, because a unit is one value that we use to represent a part in our fraction. So 1/3 is my unit fraction. So for our second tape diagram, we're going to do the same, and we're going to partition this shape 3 times. So I will do 1, 2, and 3. So you might see that that might be a little bit off. We try to be as precise as we can when drawing them freehand, but we can see that these parts are about the same size. So let's break this down and find out what our unit fraction will be for this particular tape diagram. So how many equal parts do I have? We have to find the denominator. How many equal parts do I have that make up a whole? We have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. So my denominator would be 4. Now, a unit fraction, again, is a fraction that has 1 as the numerator. We're going to identify 1 unit. And that will tell us what the value of each part is. So I know that if I have 4 equal parts, then the value of each unit will be 1/4. So if I'm going to write that in unit form, I would write 1/4. F-O-U-R-T-H. We have 4 equal parts. As we look here, we have 4. We can see that that word is present in the word fourth. So we have 4 equal parts. I have 1/4 shaded. So over here, my numerator would be 1. I have 1/4 or 1/4. And remember, our fraction bar separates our numerator from our denominator. So I have a visual representation. I have a model where I have 1/3 shaded. I have it written in unit form. The value of 1 unit is 1/3. And my unit fraction is also showing the same thing as my unit form and my model that I have shaded. I have 1/3 shaded. We can see the same thing down here for our tape diagram that is partitioned into fourths. I have 4 equal parts, 1, 2, 3, 4. My denominator reflects that. I have 1/4 that is shaded or identified. My numerator represents that. And writing that in unit form, I know that the value of each part or the shaded portion of my whole is 1/4. So that is a unit fraction. So if we look here, let's just take tape diagram number 1. B represents the total number of equal parts that we have that construct a whole. So 1/B would equal 1/3. B represents the total number of parts, 1, 2, and 3. So again, scholars, just making sure that we understand the relationship between unit form, which is when we write out with words the value of 1 unit or 1 part in our shape, and fraction form, in which we use the numerator and the denominator. We place digits. One is the numerator, one is the denominator, to show the value of 1 unit in our models. And a unit fraction is a fraction that has 1 as the numerator. So always remember, if you are looking at a shape and you have a model and you have 1 part that is shaded, we can write that as a unit fraction. A unit telling us the value of 1 part. So scholars, that concludes our lesson today. And I appreciate you all for continuing to watch and continuing to work hard as we add on and build on to these skills with fractions. So thank you for your time in watching this video, and keep a lookout for the next lesson. Thank you very much. Stay safe. Let's go Eagles.